In 1868, the United States government signed a treaty promising the Black Hills of South Dakota to the Lakota people, for as long as the grass shall grow and the rivers flow. 6 years later, gold was found there. The treaty is still legally recognized today. The Lakota have never accepted payment for the land because taking the money would mean admitting it was ever for sale. By the end of this video, you'll understand how a treaty meant to guarantee peace became one of the most broken promises in American history, and why, more than 150 years later, that broken promise is still unresolved. One more thing, I started this channel just a few weeks ago, and my mom challenged me that it wouldn't grow. So if you enjoy documentaries that take history seriously, subscribe, and let's prove her wrong together. Now here's the setup. It's 1868. 3 years after the Civil War ended. The US government is expanding west, and the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota peoples, often grouped together as the Sioux, control a massive territory stretching across the northern plains. They've just fought the US Army to a standstill in a conflict historians call Red Cloud's War, named for the Oglala Lakota leader who led it. The US is losing forts, losing soldiers, and losing the war. So Washington does something it rarely does. It asks for peace on the other side's terms. That peace becomes the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868, and it's a big deal. The US agrees to abandon 3 military forts along the Bozeman Trail. It sets aside the Great Sioux Reservation, nearly all of what is now western South Dakota, including the Black Hills, as land belonging to the Lakota closed to white settlement. It promises rations, schools, and farming supplies. On paper, it looks like a rare moment where Native nations forced a superpower to back down. But here's the first hook. The treaty didn't mean the same thing to everyone who signed it. US officials saw it as a step toward eventually turning the Lakota into settled farmers, assimilation, just on a slower timeline. Many Lakota leaders saw it as something else entirely, a guarantee that their way of life, built around the buffalo and open plains, would be left alone. Two sides signed the same document and walked away with two different futures in mind. That gap would break the peace within a decade. For a few years, an uneasy quiet holds. The forts come down, just as promised. Red Cloud himself travels to Washington and even to New York, where he gives a speech in front of a stunned audience about broken promises before this treaty even had the chance to be broken. Some historians believe he already sensed what was coming. He was right to worry. In 1874, the US Army sends an expedition into the Black Hills, the sacred, treaty-protected heart of Lakota territory, led by a young cavalry officer named George Armstrong Custer. Officially, it's a reconnaissance mission. Unofficially, it's a fishing expedition for something specific: gold. They find it. Newspapers across the country print the news within weeks, and that's the second hook, the one that changes everything. Gold isn't just found in the Black Hills. It's found in land the US itself had legally promised, in writing, would never be settled by non-natives. The treaty ink is barely a few years dry. What happens next reveals a lot about how power actually works. The government doesn't send troops to remove the miners flooding into Lakota land. Instead, it tries to buy the Black Hills outright, when Lakota leaders refuse. Because, again, this isn't land that can be sold, it's land that defines who they are. So now, the US changes its approach. In 1876, it declares that any Lakota not settled on the reservation by a certain date will be considered hostile. Think about what that ultimatum actually means. Bands who are simply living where they've always lived, exercising rights the treaty explicitly protects, are redefined overnight as enemies of the state. This is the third hook, and it's a legal sleight of hand, not a battlefield defeat. The US doesn't out-argue the Lakota. It rewrites the rules of the argument. This is the backdrop for the Great Sioux War of 1876, and it's why the Battle of the Little Bighorn happens at all. When Custer and roughly 260 of his men are killed by a combined force of Lakota, Northern Cheyenne, and Arapaho warriors that June, it becomes one of the most famous US military defeats in history. But context matters. This wasn't an unprovoked attack. It was a defensive stand by people who had been declared hostile for refusing to abandon land the government itself had promised them 8 years earlier. The victory doesn't last. American public outrage after Custer's death gives Congress the political cover it needs. In 1877, without the 3/4 approval of adult Lakota men that the original treaty required for any land changes, Congress simply passes an act taking the Black Hills. Here's the fourth hook, and it might be the sharpest one. The treaty had a built-in safeguard, specifically designed to prevent exactly this kind of unilateral land seizure. The government just ignored its own rule. From here, the story becomes one of shrinking. The Great Sioux Reservation is broken into smaller, separate reservations over the following decades. Buffalo herds, already devastated by commercial hunting, collapse. Without buffalo, the plains economy that Lakota life depended on collapses with it. Rations promised in the treaty become a tool of control, withheld or reduced to pressure compliance. This is not a footnote. This is the mechanism through which an entire nation's independence was dismantled piece by piece using bureaucracy instead of bullets. And yet, the story doesn't end in defeat. It goes quiet, but it doesn't go away. For nearly a century, the Black Hills seizure sits as an open wound discussed within Lakota communities, but largely ignored by the wider American public. Then, in 1980, the case reaches the U.S. Supreme Court, United States versus Sioux Nation of Indians. The court rules that the 1877 seizure was illegal, a violation of the Fifth Amendment, taking land without just compensation. This is the fifth and final hook, and it's the one most people don't expect. America's own highest court agreed the Lakota were right. The compensation ordered was over $100 million, calculated with interest, and the Lakota Nation said no. That refusal is the key to understanding everything. Accepting the money, in the eyes of many Lakota, would legally finalize the sale of land that was never supposed to be for sale in the first place. So the money still sits in a federal trust account, growing with interest, untouched for over 4 decades now. It's worth well over $1 billion today. Nobody has claimed it. That's not an oversight. That's a statement held for generations. Today, the Lakota Nation, spread across reservations including Pine Ridge, Rosebud, and Standing Rock, continues to fight for the actual return of the land, not a financial settlement. It's a community facing real, serious challenges, some of the highest poverty rates in the country, alongside a resurgent, deliberate effort to preserve language, ceremony, and governance on Lakota terms. This isn't a people frozen in the past. It's a nation still actively defining its own future, using the same legal and political systems that once worked against it. So back to where we started. That treaty, signed in 1868, promising land for as long as the grass shall grow, it was never formally undone. It was violated. And the money meant to make that violation disappear is still sitting there, unclaimed, because taking it would mean agreeing to a story the Lakota have never accepted, which raises a question worth sitting with. What does it actually mean for a country to win a war when the people it defeated never stopped saying no? There are hundreds of stories like this one still waiting to be told right. Subscribe and let's keep telling them.